what's going on? The answer is that this isn't a story about Adobe collapsing today. It's a story about whether Adobe's advantages and operations today will keep the company as relevant as it is now and hopefully still growing in 5 or 10 years. And the first place you can see that future being tested is its subscription model. Not because subscriptions are anything new, but because Adobe's way of enforcing them has now become a legal problem.
See, this is why I be saying you gotta pay attention to how these companies make their money. Because the moment a subscription model starts turning into a legal issue, now I'm wondering exactly what Adobe got going on over there. Usually when the government starts poking around a company's business model like that, there's way more to the story than people realize. Crazy thing is, I got a feeling this ain't even the worst part yet.
Adobe's modern business is built on the idea that you don't buy the software once anymore. You subscribe and pay monthly, and this solves a big problem. Adobe's revenue stops depending so much on people choosing to upgrade, but rather on people choosing to cancel. It's arguably easier to prevent people from canceling a subscription they're already used to paying, rather than convincing them to pay for each new version, which means Adobe makes more money in the end. But that model only feels fair if leaving is easy. And that's exactly what the US government says Adobe undermined.
Low-key, Adobe kinda banking on us getting comfortable. I mean, think about it. If somebody told you for one monthly payment, you get access to all these apps, all these features, all this stuff in one place, most people probably not even thinking twice about it. That's what makes it so tempting. Then after a while, it just becomes a little charge coming out of your account every month. Whole time, a lot of people probably don't even realize how deep they're into subscriptions until they try to finally leave one.
In 2024, the Federal Trade Commission announced action against Adobe and 2 Adobe executives, alleging the company hid key terms about cancellation fees and made it unnecessarily difficult for customers to cancel. The accusation wasn't just that there was a fee, but that Adobe steered people into the plan that looked the cheapest up front and then hit them with what the government calls a hidden early termination fee, and ran them through a cancellation process the government says was intentionally difficult to complete.
Honestly, this kind of makes me feel bad for the people that are probably signing up for Adobe right now or have already signed up and got no idea this whole situation even going on. Dang, Adobe, you telling people one thing up front, then making it a headache to leave after. That's cold. It almost makes me feel like getting people in the door matters way more than actually keeping them happy. Truth be told, I've literally seen companies hit people with cancellation fees that range from 100 to 200 before. They got me sitting here thinking, dang, how bad was Adobe really taxing people to leave?
Consumers experienced dropped calls and chats and multiple transfers. Some consumers who thought they had successfully cancelled their subscription reported that the company continued to charge them until discovering the charges on their credit card statements. What makes this case different is what it implies about the business. If the government is right, the fee isn't just one of their policies in their terms and conditions, but a retention tool. It raises the cost of leaving, meaning more people are pushed to stay with the subscription even though they don't want to.
Look, I don't think this stuff is right at all, but at the same time, you gotta look at it from Adobe's perspective too. I've known Adobe since I was like in 7th grade. Photoshop, After Effects, Premiere has been tied to creative work for as long as I can remember. But this is where it starts getting a little interesting. Their whole business model basically depends on millions of people continuing to pay every single month. So once people start canceling at scale, that's when it stops becoming we just losing customers to the type of situation that could genuinely start pushing the business toward bankruptcy.
Now, how did Adobe respond? They denied the allegations, stating that they are transparent with the terms and conditions of their subscription agreements and have a simple cancellation process, topping it off with them claiming their priority is always to ensure their customers have a positive experience. It doesn't take an expert to state that these completely contradict the FTC's claims.
Of course Adobe gonna deny it, bruh. What y'all expect them to say? Yeah, we making it difficult for people to leave on purpose? Like, come on now. If you got the government on your back and people already looking at your company crazy, of course you're gonna try to clean it up before it turns into a whole PR disaster. I can only imagine the amount of people that probably went through all this frustration and just gave up trying to leave.
If Adobe is winning because the products are simply the best, then people would stay without the need for all this cancellation friction, and it would make a good company to invest in. But with these practices Adobe has been allegedly applying, it blurs the lines and makes it difficult to know for sure if Adobe is winning because the product is good or if it's just too annoying and expensive to leave. It almost feels like a lack of confidence from Adobe's side that they implemented these friction points where other companies just haven't. And I don't think I'm the only one that thinks that way. What's clear is that Adobe wants to keep people within their ecosystem.
That's the irony right there. The more people hear about hidden fees, cancellation friction, all that extra nonsense, the more people start looking at Adobe differently. Now, the very thing they're trying to prevent starts happening anyway. People stop trusting the company. People start thinking twice before signing up. Once people start feeling like they're being trapped instead of valued, that reputation spread fast. Even if somebody do leave after all that frustration and extra fees, there's a good chance they may never come back.
When you're used to being the default, you can optimize your strategy for staying the biggest instead of the best. You can't really capture much more of the market because, well, people are anyway using your product. You only really need to innovate enough to keep people using your product instead of other products.
I actually never even thought about it like that before. Adobe really is the default for a lot of people. Like if I want to make thumbnails, edit something, make a backdrop, whatever, Adobe usually the first thing that comes to my mind. So I kind of see why a company in that position will start moving different once they get used to everybody depending on them. But at the same time, I highly doubt Adobe's the only option that people got. That's why stuff starts getting interesting once real competition starts showing up.
It's a completely different mindset to DJI, which I covered in last week's video, where DJI is constantly pushing innovation in the drone market. And Adobe's mindset does work. It clearly is still the biggest in the space, but it only works until the moment you can't buy the competition and the innovation, like with the case of Figma. And then you're forced to innovate and compete to keep your customers.
You wouldn't have to worry about competition if you just got it right with people from the jump. You treat them good, give them fair prices, make them actually feel valued. A lot of people probably wouldn't even feel the need to leave once new competitors show up. That's why stuff like trust and the customer experience probably matter way more than what the companies realize. Once that trust breaks, all it takes is one competitor to start changing the whole game.
Which brings us to the bigger problem. Figma was proof that new competitors can actually threaten Adobe's share in the market, and Figma wasn't a one-off. There's more new competition that Adobe has to deal with. Enter Canva. It started by making design and editing feel easy for day-to-day stuff that doesn't need a bunch of professional features, like social media posts and pitch decks. It also adopted the freemium strategy, where you can already do a lot for free and then pay when you want the extras. That's completely opposite to Adobe.
Let me just tell y'all what I think. I think Adobe got crazy potential. If they had a solid free version and stopped being so aggressive with all this subscription stuff, I really feel like they can keep a lot more people happy long term. Now me personally, I've known Canva since like 2016. If I'm being real, I never liked it like that. It's just not for me. Still though, even if people think the alternatives are worse, a lot of people would rather deal with that than feel trapped somewhere they don't want to be anymore.
And that's what changes the business story for Adobe. When there are real alternatives, Adobe stops being the automatic default, which means more people start elsewhere and more people can leave when they're unhappy. And this is where AI comes in, because if competitors like Affinity are catching up on the basics, Adobe needs something that creates distance again.
Bro, the second I hear AI getting involved, I already know things about to take a left turn. Every company trying to attach AI to their product right now. Everybody want to feel ahead of the competition by using AI. Now you got Adobe getting involved too? Bruh, this can either go really good or go bad real fast.
Adobe introduced AI in the form of generative credits, making AI usage part of the subscription itself, allowing Adobe to change what different subscription plans include. And this matters because AI credits forces a new question Adobe didn't have to answer before. What are you actually paying for now? When creation gets faster and easier and starts skipping the use of those professional tools, focus shifts from those professional tools to the convenience aspect of having AI do the work.
Let me ask y'all something. Would you rather spend hours making something from scratch or press a button and have AI help you get there way faster? I'm already hip. No need to tell me what you think. Because whether people like it or not, a lot of creators choosing speed now. That's what makes this AI stuff so crazy. The easier creation gets, the less people start caring about what tool did it. They just care about the result. Now all of a sudden, these companies not just competing on who got the best tools anymore. They're competing on who can make creating feel the fastest and easiest.
The issue is that this convenience is something competitors can copy with debatably more ease. Now, if Adobe manages to make an AI that is leagues better than the competition, it's probably going to do very well, but this doesn't come without risk. With AI developing at such a fast pace, who's to say that other competitors won't be able to catch up or even beat Adobe when it comes to design AIs?
You know what the interesting part about all this? If Adobe start relying heavily on AI to stay ahead of the competition, they kind of open the floodgates to a whole different level of competition too. Now it's not just Canva, Figma, and little creative apps anymore. AI is mad expensive. They end up competing with companies like Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, companies with insane amounts of money for servers, research, infrastructure, all that. So Adobe ends up drifting to a lane where they're not just competing with creative tools anymore. They competing in the AI race too, even though that probably was never the plan to begin with.
On top of that, bundling AI into the plan can easily feel like just another way to justify higher prices, especially when people are feeling squeezed by the subscriptions. Adobe is still currently a strong business, but the untouchability Adobe has had for the last decade is getting tested now. For years, they could treat dominance like a strategy in and of itself, because the market rewarded being the default more than it rewarded being loved.
Adobe, this is my advice to y'all. At this point, the move is just to keep your people happy, man. Keep your people happy instead of trying so hard to maximize profits and all this stuff. Treat people good. Give people fair pricing. Stop making it so hard to leave and being so aggressive with everything. Maybe once people feel like the company actually respects them, they'll be a lot more forgiving when problems happen. This is just my advice though. Take it how y'all want it, but I genuinely think y'all should try it.
But when real competitors show up, that strategy isn't enough anymore. You need people to actually want to stay because they like the product, they like the experience, and they feel good paying for it. The advantage that survives the longest isn't being clever about locking in customers or acquiring competition. It's building something so good that even when competitors offer an exit, people don't take it.
Adobe still got time to figure this whole thing out. But AI changing this industry way faster than people expected. Everything moving fast right now. Matter of fact, if y'all think this AI situation with Adobe getting crazy, wait till y'all see what been going on with OpenAI lately.